33-story hotel and condo project.
I'd probably be
Okay,
like
like
that.
stop, tap.
This is a plan by the community for the community.
This one here, show me.
No problem, Ken. Thanks for having me.
It's Kent Mulgat for Kelowna Now. And we're joined by Ryan Pincura from Zen Labs. Thanks for coming in.
Oh, thank you very much, Ken.
So I'm not sure I fully have a grasp of what you guys are doing yet, but I think I'm starting to. Zen Labs here in Kelowna will be providing scientific analysis of marijuana, initially for the medicinal, but then ultimately also for the recreational market, so that people and companies selling it can have a clearer idea of exactly what they've got in their product. Am I right?
Absolutely. So what Zen Labs is an organization that is to analyze the cannabis for the consumer market. So as of right now, we're under the ACMPR, which is Access to Cannabis for Medical Purposes regulations, and this is the act that has regulated the cannabis and what analysis needs to be performed. So Zen Labs will be performing the analysis required by Health Canada in order to provide the licensed producers with the constituents of the product, plus the quality assurance aspects of the possible hazardous constituents, and that the product is free from it prior to it being sent out and distributed to the populace.
Right. A lot of people are already getting access, to marijuana. And my understanding is that the points of sale, there are all sorts of claims and information being provided to them over the counter about, what the constituents of the product are. But I think that at this point, a lot of that is guesswork. And your company would provide a little more real analysis behind that?
Oh, absolutely. So in the gray market, if you were to visit an establishment and purchase a product that didn't undergo the analysis, say, from Zen Labs, you might not have an accurate depiction of what you're seeing in the product. And so Zen Labs takes the product. We need to use a chain of custody, so it's all proper protocol from licensed producers. We have that product then homogenized so that you're getting an equal representative sampling of the actual product per batch.
Isn't it difficult? Sorry to interrupt, but you are analyzing something that grows, and a crop varies from week to week, or one part of the field to another. So it must be difficult to do that sort of homogenization, and difficult to say that the numbers that you got when you did that sampling are the same from the same product, a week later.
So unfortunately, any sampling of products such as agricultural samples, even soils. So the individuals that are responsible for taking the samples would properly subsample a large, say in terms of cannabis, the batch, and then provide us with that portionality, and then we would homogenize it. But unfortunately, yes, some portions were going to be different than others.
Right.
So the quality assurance person in charge, the QAP at the licensed facilities, one of their responsibilities is to accurately subsample the batch and provide it to the analytical labs for analysis. So they need to determine what should be the lot size of the sample for analysis.
Okay.
And they need to accurately take the portions so that it can be representative. And so once we get it, it is what we've received, and then that's how we have to proceed.
Right.
So like I said,
so at least people know that there have at least been efforts made to make it as accurate as possible, so people have some expectation that they're getting something close to what it says in terms of the numbers. Now, I want to talk a little bit about why this information is even important, and we talked about this ahead of time. Some people simply want the cannabinoids, which is the non-THC, the non-sort of mood-altering element for medicinal purposes. So knowing the breakdown, how much THC is in this product, is important to those people.
Absolutely, but THC is considered a cannabinoid. So the cannabinoids that we would be analyzing would be, well, the two biggest ones that people are concerned with is the CBD and the THC. So
it's the CBD factor. That's the sort of, generally speaking, that's the medicinal end of the product. right? And some people want just that.
Absolutely, yeah. And so how it would break down in the lab is we would run the analysis for the constituents that Health Canada requires us to do, which would be those two portions, the CBD and the THC. And then we could have that available for the LP to put on the packaging, and then the consumer, as of right now...
When you say LP, you mean licensed producer?
Correct, yeah. Right, yeah. So the licensed producers will put this onto their packaging, and then the patients can choose what product works best for them. And as we move forward and into October 17th, where the Cannabis Act comes into play, then the individuals, the consumers, will then be able to choose the product that is best suited for them for however they want to be using this product, may it be just for the recreational side or continuing on for their medical reasoning.
And on the recreational side, people do want to know, not simply for value for money, but for how it might affect them on the THC side, just how powerful, how potent the product is.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what people need to keep in mind, because if they're choosing that product and their doctor has prescribed it to them for means to help them with whatever ailment, but they don't want the psychotropic effects of the THC, then they'll ask for, say, possibly a product that is high CBD, low THC. So that,
even on the psychotropic end of things, people will want to have a number on it.
Oh, absolutely, right? Yeah. No, and in the recreational side, once the Cannabis Act comes into place and cannabis is decriminalized in the Canadian market, then people will still want to be able to decide what they want from that product. And it gives them the ability to choose more accurately what is best for them.
It's interesting times. We're heading towards this October legalization phase. But in the meantime, here your company is, and it's recently got the licensing it needs from the Office of Controlled Substances.
Correct.
And within a few months, it's not even going to be a controlled substance anymore. So
it'll be highly regulated.
Right.
So just like the tobacco and the alcohol industry, medical.
So really, in layman's terms, it will remain controlled. It just won't be a controlled substance with all of that has meant in the past.
Absolutely. And the good thing in terms of, say, Zen Labs providing the analysis is if you pick up a can of beer, right? Often you don't even have the constituents labeled. You could pick up a can of soup and see all the ingredients listed from the highest constituent to the lowest, and then your nutritional value and so on and so forth. But on beer products, the government doesn't even require that that be on the label, but you'll find this in cannabis. So that's
okay. So there's got to be a long list of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what sort of things will, when you've fully analyzed a crop, what's it going to say on there in terms of what's in it?
So unfortunately, Zen Labs doesn't choose what goes on the label. So the licensed producer is responsible for putting the minimum from the requirements of Health Canada, and then they may put other additional components, such as the list of terpenes and their quantities, because this is also something that people are concerned and
terpenes would be like the aroma giving elements?
Yeah, so for instance, there's the forest therapy where people go into the woods and they're in nature and you smell that strong pine smell, say if you're around spruce trees, and that would be alpha-pinene, say for instance, a terpene that some individuals say promotes health. And so those constituents are in the cannabis, and individuals want to know what terpenes and at what levels they're in the product. So that's the discretion of the LP to put those on the labels as well. So I test for the heavy metals. So to make sure that none of the hazardous components are in there. We're going to test for pesticides. We're going to test for aflatoxins. We're going to test for obviously the cannabinoids as we discussed, and then the micro end, which would be your salmonella, your E. coli. We'll do total and fecal coliforms. We'll do yeast and mold. We'll make sure that nothing is harmful in the product. And then the other components, say, like I mentioned earlier, the terpenes and the cannabinoid profile can be something that the LP chooses to put on the label, as well as saying that it's been tested and it's free from any hazardous components.
Will you be taking in product from all over North America, or what's your business model in terms of who will be taking advantage of the work you're doing?
So as of right now, we're still ramping up to have our business fully functioning, and so this will be something that will determine.
Are there labs all over the place?
There
like
are,
this?
yeah. There's,
So
I believe we're one of almost 50 labs that are essentially licensed by Health Canada to take possession of a controlled substance and then analyze it.
Right, so you have to compete for the market with another 49 companies for that kind of work.
But at the same time, if you look at how many labs there are, there might be 50 labs in Greater Vancouver that test for environmental and agricultural. But yet there's only 50 licensed dealers that are allowed to do the analysis in all of Canada.
So your Kelowna-based parent company, Green Tech, is a licensed producer as well, right?
So they're in the first stages
of getting licensed.
There's 2 stages under the ACMPR currently. So the individuals need to get their cultivation license and then eventually their distribution license. So once they get the second portion of their license, then they will be considered a fully licensed.
So that's in the works and moving positively.
Correct.
For you to occupy that part of the market, plus this analysis. What about research and development? Is that a goal for your company?
Absolutely.
Do that as well? Because I do, as a layperson, I find this part of the whole industry frustrating. You've got certain people that see cannabis as this panacea that can cure every disease known to man, and then it's got its opponents on the other side that say it's all just a big front for people just simply wanting to get high. I'm sure there are definite positive medicinal values, but nailing down which ones are real, I think is important.
Absolutely. And so to be clear though, the research and development that we would most likely conduct at Zen Labs would be more so on the side of how to get a derivative into a form for ingestion other than just dry flower and the means to which people are now ingesting.
Right. So more edibles?
In the future, if edibles, so under the ACMPR with Health Canada, edibles are not allowed. In the future, once we see the Cannabis Act go through and later in the future, we may see alterations to the regulations under Health Canada, but as of right now, edibles are not available in the proper licensed environment through Health Canada.
But this is the kind of where everything's changing fast.
Absolutely.
So, you can probably mark that in months instead of years in terms of these sorts of changes.
Yeah, very possible.
Well, there's so much we could talk about, but we have to limit our time. Ryan, thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much, Ken.
Ryan
It's my pleasure.
Procura from Zen Labs. Thank you for watching Kelowna Now.